this goes much further than Bill S-230 with regards to roadside testing on a number of points, but especially one point in particular. And on that point, it creates a crime establishing a limit on the amount of THC that can be present in one's system when one drives. It can go from 2 to 5 based on the circumstances. This is an element that had not been studied by the House Committee when they studied S-230. It also talks about impaired driving. I asked a number of questions to officials who came to talk to us. As a critic, I asked them the questions. I am yet to receive answers. What about aviation? What about the drugs themselves? I have a question more for you as leader of the government in particular. What happens if an offense is recognized or if an officer determines that someone does not have impaired driving, but at the same time, a blood test that was taken beforehand shows that the level of THC is of 2 or 5. And so this would lead to an offense. Will both results be available to the courts? And what will the courts have to do? Will they acquit the driver or say that they're guilty?
I thank the Senator for his question, and I wish him a happy birthday from yesterday in the hopes that my compliments will encourage him to participate in the debate and move the bill along. Senator, those are exactly the kind of questions that we should be dealing with in committee. This is a question of a debate in principle, and the principle of the debate is, as your bill, to ensure that we have the highest standards of road safety available to Canadians with respect to alcohol and drug-related impairment. And I hope that, that in committee, the appropriate officials can answer your technical questions so that we, as a Senate, can come to a point of view on this bill in as quickly a process of consideration as possible. And I do underscore the support for our consideration given by MADD Canada, which is, I think, one of the interest groups that is most affected, being that so many of its members have had the tragedies in their families and among their friends that bring their concerns to this chamber.
Senator Platt.
Would Senator Harder take another question? Just a very brief and fairly simple question, Senator Harder. If you want C-46 to go to committee so that we can deal with creating offenses for something that is still illegal entirely. I'm not sure why we are putting the cart before the horse here. What happens if Bill C-45 never becomes law? Why do we need Bill C-46?
Senator Harder.
Senator, as the MADD letter and I was trying to explain in my comments, the fact is that we have drug-impaired driving offenses today. And what we need to do is upgrade the enforcement capacity to identify and deal with drug-related offenses. That has nothing to do with whether or not at some point this Parliament decides to move forward with C-45. The absolute truth is we have this problem now. We have the capacity in Bill C-46 to improve our enforcement of drug-related offenses, and let's do it.
Question. Senator Platt.
Well, there are a number of situations, Senator Harder, if you don't mind, Senator Martin.
Sorry.
There are a number of situations in other areas where we create penalties for doing something illegal. And the fact of the matter right now, drugs is illegal. So we should be creating a penalty for somebody doing something illegal in the first place. And smoking marijuana or taking drugs and getting into a car, you've done something illegal before you ever get into the car, and you don't want to concern yourself with that.
Senator Harder.
Again, Senator Plett, we are dealing with drug impairment traffic related offenses. That is before us and with us now, as I pointed out, even in greater number than alcohol-related accidents. And it is time that we provide our enforcement officials with the proper tools to deal with the problem we have. Whether it is legal or not, it is here. And I would encourage all senators to pay attention to what MADD Canada is urging us to do, and to move this bill along for consideration as quickly as possible.
Just the committee. Karen Young.
Mr. Leader, I understand your alacrity faced with this situation, but I would like to remind you that S230 was in the other chamber and was adopted unanimously in this chamber. It was sent to the other place, and at second reading, debating on the principle of the bill itself, the government voted against S230 and defeated it. And so, if it was so urgent, then why did your government act in an irresponsible way by annulling, or rather repealing, this in the other house?
And I would remind him, as he remembers, that I voted for his bill here in this chamber. With respect to the government's action or the actions in the other chamber, let me simply say that it is the view of the government that government legislation amending the criminal code, as this does, is a more appropriate vehicle for bringing forward amendments that can conform with all of the requirements and obligations of government.
Senator Karen Young.
The government adopted S231, which amends the criminal code. It was adopted unanimously here. It was adopted unanimously in the other chamber, and on the 18th of October, it received royal assent. The same could have been done very easily with S230, and police officers would, for the festive period, have a way to test people under impaired driving.
The delay in dealing with this isn't out of pique for how your bill was dealt with.
Senator Martin.
I move the adjournment to the debate.
Moved by the Honourable Senator Martin, seconded by the Honourable Senator Smith, that further debate be adjourned until the next sitting of the Senate.